What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I got a couple updates for you on the most important topics because I'm apparently the only one that really ever talks about them. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The first thing that I wanted to talk about, this article from Yahoo Sports. NCAA rules out fall championships as FCS conferences postpone. That's interesting. As the final FCS domino fell on Thursday, NCAA President Mark Emmert acknowledged the inevitable. There will be no NCAA championships for fall sports in 2020. Emmert addressed the issue in a video released by the NCAA Thursday afternoon. There's not enough schools. I wonder who could have predicted this. I wonder who said earlier on that schools are going to drop out, players are going to drop out, blah, 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 and eventually enough dominoes are going to fall that the whole thing ends up getting canceled. I wonder who could have said that. I guess we'll just never know. Anyway, we cannot now at this point have fall NCAA championships, Emmert said, because there's not enough schools participating. The Board of Governors also said, look, if you don't have half of the schools playing a sport, you can't have a legitimate championship. And that actually makes total sense. Maybe they should have just shut down from the very beginning so we could have helped to prevent the spread of this virus and the destruction that it's caused since, and in fact, the lengthening of time that we will have to deal with it. And then obviously subsequent issues that will follow next year. Like, for example, now that there's going to be like no college football, guess what's going to happen to next year's draft? It is going to be a massive shit show. Okay, anyway, so we can't in any Division I NCAA championship sport, which is everything other than FBS football. So, okay, so almost there. We cannot at this point have fall NCAA, okay, I already read that. Fall sports in the spring. Emmert didn't rule out holding championships for fall sports in the winter or spring while urging schools and conferences to conduct those sports at a later date. Look, at this particular point, the viability of them doing it in the spring, I don't know. We'll see. My guess is that things will still not be under control well enough by spring to get it going then. But it's still a ways away. I've seen some reports about positive notes on these vaccine updates and stuff, but I always take that shit with a grain of salt until there is a proven vaccine that doesn't have ungodly side effects and fucking kill more people than it helps, etc., etc. Once there's a safe, provable, workable vaccine and it's out there for the people to get at a reasonable price, etc., 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 it should be free, whatever. Until all of that happens, I'm, going to remain skeptical, right? I'll believe it when I see it. And frankly, though, that's not to say that, I don't believe that they could be making progress or that it could happen. I hope it does, and I certainly would like to think that they're making progress, but it doesn't effectually do anything until it's out there and it's provided to people en masse and actually does its job. So until we have that data point, reliably available, I'm not going to include it into the equation. Let's see. He also said that fall sports will not receive priority over winter and spring sports, which saw their championships and seasons canceled at the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic. See, and that's another thing, right? So now they've had a bunch of these, sports programs already canceled because of COVID-19. The spring programs and shit, right? Now they're going to try and double up with spring programs, and it's just a giant mess, dude. They're overcomplicating things and making things so much worse when the answer from the beginning was just shut the fuck down. Anyway, the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments were among the first sports casualties of the COVID-19 pandemic. Emmert's announcement arrived as the Ohio Valley Conference reportedly made plans to postpone its fall sports schedule. The OVC would be the 13th and final FCS conference to announce that it won't conduct fall sports as scheduled. FBS football season, CFP not settled. The fate of the FBS football season as a whole remains in limbo. Several conferences have postponed or canceled their football seasons, including the Big Ten and Pac-12. The ACC, SEC, and Big 12 maintain hope that they can put together a semblance of a fall football season. So to be fair, I haven't been fully proven correct yet, But again, with every domino that falls, I get proven more and more and more correct. Now, even if some of these conferences still manage to play some sports, it still will not change the fact that this entire season has been a complete shit show and fucked in a million different ways. And it also won't change the fact that it will also drastically affect the NFL, next year's draft, blah, 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 blah. So both things could be true. It could be that they end up playing some, semblance of, a bullshit patchwork fucking season, and also everything be completely fucked. Anyway, but I still believe that the likelihood is that it's just going to end up getting shut down altogether. Fall sports in the spring. Emory didn't rule out holding championships for fall sports in the winter or spring, while urging schools and conferences to conduct those sports at a later date. He suggested that if half the schools participate... Wait a second. I already read that. Oh, what am I doing? Never mind. I'm sorry. I accidentally scrolled back up and I thought it was more. Anyway, so that's that. Let me go ahead and move on to the next thing, because this is actually more directly related to the NFL, and this actually is yet another data point that puts the season in jeopardy. So this is also from Yahoo Sports. 5 on-field officials opt out of NFL season due to COVID-19. Let's note that oftentimes officials are older and certainly could have a higher opportunity or probability of dying from this. But now it's also true that the NFL obviously can replace those officials, but more complications, etc., 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 and more people who have said, you know what, this shit is not worth it, bro. This shit is not worth my health and safety or that of my loved ones, etc., etc., and that is the right decision to make. 5 on-field officials have opted out of the 2020 NFL season due to concerns around the COVID-19 pandemic, the league announced Friday. 2 replay officials have also opted to take a leave of absence for the year, ESPN reported. So a couple of replay officials. These are motherfuckers that sit like in a fucking office somewhere, right? In a little cubicle or whatever, right? Or it's, at ESPN headquarters or something, whatever. And it's not exactly like an office setting, but like, it's not like they're fucking, on the field playing or even in the stadiums. These are guys that are like off-site in a remote location, etc., etc. So they could reasonably fucking make it work without any fucking problems. And a couple of those guys are like, yeah, this shit's not fucking worth it. Real quick, just because there was a tweet from some jackass or whatever that follows football and the fucking Dolphins or whatever. I've mentioned him a couple times. I find it funny how he thinks that he lives rent-free in my head just because I mention him every once in a great while. Anyway, I think it's far more telling that he has this major emotional reaction every time I call him an idiot on Twitter than it does the fact that I occasionally quote tweet him on Twitter. I think it's pretty obvious who lives in whose head. But anyway, Matt Infante, he's a fucking moron, and he mentioned something along the lines of like, man, blah, 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 I don't know, some bunch of fucking stupid shit, and then he's like, but I really wish, I know I'm not the only one that really wishes there was some, crappy, low quality, I'm paraphrasing here, crappy, low quality summer football since, today would officially be their first preseason game. No, I don't wish that because it puts fucking people's lives in risk. And so, I quote tweeted him whatever, and then he had that emotional response and then tweeted me back or replied to my tweet saying, got in my mentions. That's another thing that I think is funny. Every single time, it's been like, I don't know, I've quote tweeted this dude maybe 5 or 6 times, like ever. Okay? Once every, great while, because he pops up into my Bleacher Report stream and he says something stupid, and so I'll quote tweet him and call him stupid. But like every single time he has this major emotional reaction, then gets in my mentions and says that he thinks it's funny that I don't even follow him, but I'm somehow always in his mentions, and he loves living rent-free in my head. It's always the same thing. Dude's a fucking moron. Anyway, point is, Because there's a bigger point here. Football is not more important than people's lives. Okay? Not. It's not. It's just not. The entertainment value that you get from it is not more important than people's lives. The money that the NFL and the billionaire owners are going to make is not more important than people's lives. So you can fuck off. Anyway, 5 officials opt out of season. The league named the 5 officials to skip the season. Jeff Bergman, line judge. Steve Freeman, back judge. Greg Gautreaux, field judge. Joe LaRue, field judge. And Tony Steratore, back judge. Gene Steratore's son, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, those who opt out receive a $30,000 stipend and a jobs guarantee for the 2021 season, as agreed to by the NFL and NFL Referees Association. With the 2 replay officials, ESPN reports will opt out. The roster of officials currently has 114 on it. All of the officials are part-time employees after the league suspended the full-time employee program. They're just a bunch of cunts, dude. The NFL is just a bunch of fucking douchebags. They're capitalist fucking pigs that only care about their money, and that's it. NFL will add officials to roster. The NFL said new officials will be hired and announced in the coming days. The league is expected to add around 6 more officials to ensure enough officials are available in case of illness or quarantine, per ESPN. The season is scheduled to begin September 10th. There are no preseason games this year as agreed by the NFL and NFLPA because of the pandemic. Players already passed their deadline to opt out of the season, with many taking the offer. NFL Referees Association Executive Director Scott Green said last month on-field officials are expected to wear a face covering and gloves during games. The average age of officials is in the 50s, close to the high-risk range of COVID. Alright, bro, look, people don't like to fucking listen. They just want to constantly fucking ignore, chastise, attack, denigrate, whatever, demonize. Whatever, bro. Look, at this point in my life, I'm tired of like the civility and the higher card bullshit. When I'm right, I'm gonna fucking say it, okay? And when I'm wrong, I'll admit to that too, of course. But I'm not gonna sit here and fucking not be like, I told you motherfuckers so when it happens. Because dumb motherfuckers that believe dumb shit need to be told, I fucking told you so, when the shit that I told you was gonna happen, happens. So, when I'm wrong, I'll admit it, but when I'm right, you damn well better believe that I'm gonna fucking mention that too. Because it's important that truth reigns, and facts and data reign, and not bullshit, lies, propaganda, and fucking misinformation, disinformation, etc., etc. Anyway, with that, guys, I'm going to get up out of here. I hope you appreciate my perspectives and videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And, of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. See y'all soon. Phins up.